What's up, everyone? Aaron Nagler here with Cheesehead TV, coming to you live with our Packers Daily Chat here on our YouTube channel. Hope you guys are subscribed. If you're not, make sure you solve that problem. The Packers have plenty of problems to solve after a close but ultimately fruitless outing in Los Angeles against the still undefeated Rams. You have to think there'll be a lot of soul searching on both sides of the ball, but clearly there's a lot of stuff to take away from that performance that was very positive and something that the coaches will undoubtedly look at the tape and impart to their guys, including one Ty Montgomery, who I have no doubt there will be many questions about in today's chat. Let's get right to it. Jesse, what would you do in a situation like yesterday with Ty disregarding a coach's order? Well, now it's interesting, the Ty Montgomery's quote coming out of the locker room just a little bit ago saying that he's never been a guy who would completely dismiss what he was being told to do. Leaves open a little wiggle room in my mind as far as possibly going against orders there at the end of the game. I would have cut him. I would have cut him last night on the plane ride home, but I'm a hothead reactionary. Mike McCarthy, talking just a little bit ago, it's why we're coming a little bit late today, said that Ty, quote, made a mistake. He made a mistake. When asked if he can go forward with Ty on his football team, McCarthy said, it's football. There are always plays you want to reflect on. He may have said need to reflect on, but you get the point. So it sounds like, for the time being, Ty Montgomery will stick around. Now, as anyone who follows football knows, the trade deadline is tomorrow. I would tend to believe that the Packers would be taking calls and or even actively shopping Ty Montgomery after yesterday's escapades. That is complete guesswork on my part. That is not with any inside information, but that is my hunch. So we will see what the next 24 hours hold for Mr. Montgomery and the Packers. Lots of people checking in on the chat. Good to see everybody. Look how many people. Wait, I'm sick. I'm still sick over that game. It's been close to 24 hours. I'm over it. Nick says, alpha performance indeed. McCarthy even nodded at the end of his presser that he is the best pass protector on the team. I'm not sure who that's in reference to, Nick. As far as alpha performances, McCarthy was asked about Jair Alexander's performance in LA yesterday, and he did say that they would grade that as an alpha performance, which I thought was funny. Spicy, is Chandler Jones an option? No. His contract is pretty prohibitive. Here we go. Give me Bruce Irwin for a fifth and a smile. Amar, I would be absolutely shocked if they traded for Bruce Irvin, if only because I don't think that's the kind of player and or personality that Brian Gutekunst wants to bring into his locker room. Irvin has been a somewhat productive pass rusher throughout his career, but he's also been a bit of a wild card in the locker room, some of the headlines he generates, etc. I would be surprised if Gutekunst went that route, but you never know. Stefano, if it's a lost season, got to focus on the draft and those two first. It's not a lost season by any stretch of the imagination. Any optimism when arguably we played better in the second half when the Rams had finally figured us out? You know, they go through these stretches, the Packers do, especially on offense, where they kind of just short circuit. They go cold on offense. I thought defensively, they played a great game. Obviously, the Rams are always going to get theirs. They are an incredibly potent offense, and the fact that Mike Pettine's crew held them down for as long as they did was really impressive. Just needed more firepower from the Packers offense yesterday that just didn't show up in a timely manner. Why is Kyler Fackrell, of all people, continuously outplaying the overpaid Nick Perry? I certainly see more effort from Kyler Fackrell, especially in that sack yesterday. He went around a tackle who rarely gives up pressure, let alone sacks. So, the Nick Perry thing is very disappointing. He has been all but invisible throughout most of this season. Angel, what's up? Brandon, Jair Alexander, Rookie of the Year. Well, let's slow down on that, but he did have a fantastic performance. Monty's Brandon Bostic moment, no doubt, Gary. It'll be interesting to see if he survives it. I don't think, despite the fact that there's no news coming out of Green Bay regarding his status as a player on the Packers squad, he did meet with reporters this afternoon, although I find it very unfortunate he didn't meet with reporters after the game last night. That's something Brandon Bostic did after the NFC Championship game. And Ty Montgomery can't look reporters in the eye and take accountability for his mistake. I find that weak sauce. I was quite impressed with how the defense played with a few play exceptions, Alexander is a beast. I completely agree. Trade Ty Montgomery for someone who listens to directions. That's not a bad idea. Trade HaHa Clinton Dix for Dante Fowler and then trade for Landon Collins. Madden season. That is Madden season because that ain't going to happen. Let's take to Twitter. Some folks who can't show up here live, let's talk to them, see what they got on their minds. Thomas asks, Ty has to go, right? How can Mike McCarthy look guys like Alexander and Martinez in the eye if he doesn't? They dominated this game and spilled their hearts out. He has no role on this football team, and that insubordination cannot be tolerated. Take a stance, Mike McCarthy, for once. Well, Thomas, let's remember, Mike McCarthy does not have final say on the 53-man roster. This is a decision that would be made in concert with Brian Gutekunst and ultimately would be made by Gutekunst. Now, Mike McCarthy can say all the things you have just said and make a push for Montgomery to be released, but ultimately that call goes to Gutekunst. And whatever happens, it will be Gutekunst's call. Now, like I said a little bit before in the chat, I would not be surprised if they were taking calls and or shopping Montgomery prior to making any decision. But that's something we're going to have to watch play out over these next 24 hours. Let's see. Yesterday I saw Kyler Fackrell make a play. Clay made multiple plays, and even Gilbert got in a pressure or two. What the hell is Nick Perry doing? Not a lot. Do you think the Packers are the most complete team in the North after that defensive performance? I don't know about that, Anthony. I think the Vikings are still a really good football team, and I know they got beat up pretty good by the Saints last night, but it's all about consistency. You know, you look at the Bears, they're winning football games. Obviously, they should have put the Jets away, and they did. The Packers need to start doing that. They need to start putting opponents away that they should. And when we see kind of a complete performance on both sides of the ball a few games in a row, then I can start calling them a complete team. But as fun as it was to watch a team that actually came to compete on both sides of the ball for 60 minutes yesterday, I need to see a little bit more before I'm ready to say they're the most complete team in the division. Didn't think I would be saying this, but I think it's time to bring back Trevor Davis. Julia, that is absolutely an option, given that he should be eligible, given that, provided that he's totally healthy. But you have to think that's an option for the Packers this week, to bring Trevor Davis off of IR and give him the kick return job back. Other than Kenny Clark, is it fair to say that Jair is the most dynamic defensive player drafted in the last few drafts, i.e. 2015 to 2017, dark ages, or too soon? I think that's totally fair, Joe. Absolutely 100%. Hot take alert, Packers missed playoffs. McCarthy is fired and then hired the next day by Cleveland. McCarthy QB school helps Baker become perennial Pro Bowler. Packers fans learn that McCarthy was majorly underappreciated. Thoughts? Hollywood, I don't know if it happens, but I would not dismiss it out of hand. The tie fumble takes the headline, but the last drive the Packers had with under 7 minutes to go in the fourth, leading and could have marched down the field to take time off the clock and get at minimum a field goal attempt was a failure. Michael, I couldn't agree more. I know this question will be asked a lot, but besides cutting 88, what I think the Packers should do, Zook lost Ty's respect. Don't you think this demands a mea culpa from him, even Mike McCarthy? And if not, all of them should be gone by Tuesday? There's a lot of drama in that tweet there, Fernando. I would suggest drinking decaf in the afternoons and letting things play out this week. On the safety, could Rodgers have changed the play at the line of scrimmage? Joseph, it sure sounds like it. Now, obviously, Mike McCarthy is never going to come out and say this publicly, indicate that Aaron Rodgers was in the wrong or made a mistake, etc. But Michael Cohen asked him that pretty much directly in his press conference earlier this afternoon. And McCarthy indicated that, yeah, it was basically an RPO. I mean, he said a lot of words and tried to punt on it, but ultimately, yes, it's pretty much an RPO. And you would have to think that Rodgers had the option to rise up and fire at MVS on that slant, at least give them a little bit of breathing room, instead of running the concept that they did, handing it off to Aaron Jones with no lead blocker. McCarthy had indicated that, it had worked earlier in the game, but yeah, the box wasn't loaded on the goal line earlier in the game. Those are the kind of answers that kind of drive me nuts. But yes, it sure sounds like Rodgers had the option to rise and fire if he so chose. Does Graham have a contested catch issue? Seems like he drops a lot when he's not wide open. Nick, I agree. He's not a muscular guy at the point of attack when he's high pointing a ball. It's something he used to do pretty regularly earlier in his career, but that seems to have dissipated, and it certainly has been somewhat lost this season. The play I think you're referring to is that slant over the middle where he, of course, sitting on the ground, is gesturing at the referees. Go make a play, dude. Stop whining to the refs. You were paid a lot of money to go make that catch. So I agree he does have a bit of an issue in that area. Thanks to everyone on Twitter. I'm going to hop back on the live chat, see what everyone's yelling at me about. Nagler, do you think that final draft pick years of Ted's career all have a sour taste on McCarthy? And Tom Montgomery is just the latest one to have dissent, Randall the other? I don't really think you can tie it together like that. I think it's much more of an individual type basis. At least we have Kenny Clark. That's fair. Trading Perry a possibility? I guess it is, but I don't know who's trading for him. I mean, it's always that thing, where people talk about, oh, we got to get rid of this guy. Well, great. If you're going to trade him, who's taking him? Now, his contract becomes a little bit more manageable starting this offseason, but by then I would think the Packers would just make the cut rather than trying to trade him. Why do we always have special teams issues? I can't even remember the last time we had a kick return TD. Andrew, they haven't had great special teams coaches. They've had guys like Ron Zook, who I think actually has done a pretty darn good job given the coverage that they've had both on kicks and punts. It was pretty good yesterday, and it's been pretty good, especially in comparison to his predecessor from Zook's crew. But, these guys are coming up, and Zook, he's done everything in football. This is McCarthy just giving his buddy a job, essentially. So, while I think Zook is a fine football coach, it's not like he's some special teams wizard where he eats, sleeps, and breathes it. Hell, I remember, was it last year or 2 years ago? Somebody in a press conference, it might have been Pete, maybe it was Michael, somebody asked him, it was Rob, asked him about some technical aspect of punting, and Ron Zook literally stood up there and said, oh man, I don't know. I mean, that tells you all you need to know about attention to detail from this coaching staff, especially on special teams. MVS reminds me a lot of Javon Walker. T-Moss, that's really good. I like that. What happened to Allison? He just didn't play as many snaps along with Randall Cobb. They both were eased into the rotation yesterday, but you saw MVS. I think it's going to be hard to get MVS off the field given that you got a big body who can run and he's productive. And 12 clearly trusts the guy. So if you're a coach, you're like the wide receivers coach running these guys in and out for certain personnel groupings, it's hard for you to say, yeah, we got to keep those guys on the field in favor of these other guys because with MVS, you're going to get production. You've got all the intangibles with 12, and he's got the physical traits that you love at that position, especially in this offense. So yeah, I just think if MVS keeps it up, he's going to be hard to get off the field. Hugh Jackson is available. Oh, rejoice. When do we have to pay Clark? Well, they really don't for a while yet. They still have, he was a first-round pick, so they still have his fifth-year option that they can exercise, which they will undoubtedly will. So it'll be a while until they have to pony up for him. Tie out, Kumaro in. It's a possibility. Now there is a division in the locker room. Tremont has come out against anonymous players. Oh, yeah, but of course, this is a natural flow of things. Somebody says something in the heat of the moment, says off the record, someone reports it, then everyone in the locker room says, oh, they should put their name to it. Of course, all of these players have said stuff anonymously to reporters before in their career. And if they say they haven't, they are lying. So just take this next 24 hours with a grain of salt. And also, there's no division in the locker room. People will be a little ruffled, whatever. They'll get back to practice on Wednesday, and most of this will be forgotten. It'll drive traffic, and I hope you read about it every hour on the hour at cheeseheadtv.com, but it's really not that big a deal. Any idea why Josh Jackson didn't get on the field that much? Bryce, Whitehead, all played over 80% of the snaps. Well, Patrick, your question kind of alludes to it there. Those are all safeties, and Josh Jackson is a corner. I think very much they wanted guys who they have played at safety throughout camp, people dismiss this, but it's very, very true. These guys are working on certain packages, certain concepts, working together at certain positions. It's not quite interchangeable the way I think fans want it to be or think it is. Josh has played well at corner, and I actually think it's time to start mixing him in a little bit over Tremont. But, and I know Corey Banky's probably going to pull the plug on the chat pretty soon, but now that I've said that. But It's not as simple as, well, just put him in there for Whitehead or put him in there for Bryce. He hasn't trained at that spot at all. They executed an excellent game plan, held up against the best offense in the league, or one of them. And now the question is, can they do it consistently week after week? And they've got another stiff test Sunday night. So, yeah, like I said, I do think Josh deserves to be on the field more, but it's not as simple as, well, there's these other guys playing. Well, yeah, those other guys play different positions. Your rant at the end of the stream last night was priceless, Nagler. I think it was what everyone was thinking about, and you said it. Frustrated fan. Yeah, Brandon, it's frustrating. But then I saw that Sunday Night Football promo with Michael Jordan talking about Brady and Rodgers, and I was totally over it. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. All right, everybody, I'm going to have to jump. Thank you so much for all the questions. I'm sorry if I couldn't get to yours. They fly by. I got tons on Twitter. It's amazing how many people come and want to chat Packers each and every day here at Cheesehead TV. Thank you so much. If you're on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to our channel. And I know there's a lot of you out there who haven't. Don't do me like that. Subscribe to the channel. If you're on Facebook, like us, share us, tell your friends about us. Cheesehead TV, we're devoted to Green Bay Packers fans worldwide. Thanks a lot, everyone. Have a good night.